Have you ever found yourself telling the same story about why your life hasn't moved forward? Maybe it's about that boss who never appreciated you, that partner who didn't understand you, or that moment life just wasn't fair. The words change, the faces change, but the pattern stays. And here's the unsettling truth. If the script of your life keeps repeating, there's only one constant in every scene. You. I know that stings. It stung me when I first realized it too. Because if I'm the constant, that means the weight of responsibility might not be where I've always placed it. It's easy to believe life is something that happens to us. We are the victim, the bystander, the passive observer of some cosmic drama. And yet, every quiet moment of honesty tells us a different story. That deep down, we know exactly which choices we've been avoiding. Picture this. You're sitting across from a close friend who is venting about the same problem for the 5th time. You care about them, but you also notice they haven't taken a single step toward changing it. It's frustrating to watch from the outside. Now imagine for a moment that your life might look exactly the same to someone else. This is where the tension begins. Because once we recognize that our future is shaped less by our circumstances and more by our responses, there's no going back. It's like finding a mirror you didn't know existed. One that doesn't just reflect your face but your patterns, your excuses, your quiet refusals to act. Responsibility isn't about self-blame or carrying the weight of the world. It's about reclaiming the one power nobody can take from you, the ability to choose differently, right here, right now. But the catch is, as long as we delay that choice, everything else remains the same. If you've been wondering why your life still feels stuck, maybe it's not because nothing has changed. Maybe it's because you haven't. And that's the question I want you to hold on to as we go forward. What would happen if, starting today, you stopped outsourcing responsibility for your life? And before we continue, if this strikes a chord, if you've ever felt trapped in your own recurring story, share one line in the comments about a change you know you've been avoiding. It might just be the first step to owning it. What if, and I'm asking you to really imagine this, you woke up tomorrow and decided that every single thing in your life was your responsibility. Not your fault, necessarily, but your responsibility to respond to. How different would the day feel? I'm not talking about a vague motivation poster version of Own Your Life. I mean the raw, uncomfortable kind. No blaming traffic for your bad mood. No blaming your partner for the tension at home. No blaming your job for your lack of creativity. You would have to stand in the middle of your own life and say, if it's here, it's mine to deal with. Now take a moment to picture it. You're walking into work, and instead of mentally rehearsing complaints, you're scanning for what you can shift today. You get home, and instead of waiting for the other person to make the first move, you decide to speak differently, listen differently. Suddenly, the invisible chains that have been holding you in place don't feel as heavy. Of course, there's a risk here. Because if you start living that way, you can't hide behind the comfort of excuses anymore. Excuses, as heavy as they are, often feel safer than action. They protect us from the fear of failure by keeping us from trying at all. Taking responsibility means stepping into a world where you can no longer pretend you're powerless. But here's the twist. When you do it, even for one day, you start to see just how much of your reality was never fixed in stone. It's like finding out that the locked door you've been staring at for years was never locked at all. So imagine your life 1 year from now if you lived this way, every day. How many problems would shrink because you stopped waiting for someone else to fix them? How many dreams would finally take shape because you stopped outsourcing their creation? It's not a fantasy. It's simply the other version of your life that's been sitting next to this one all along. The version that starts the day you stop pointing outward and start looking inward. And the only question left is, which version do you want to live in? Here's a thought you might resist at first. Life doesn't change just because you've been treated unfairly, and it doesn't improve just because you deserve better. That's a comforting belief that the universe owes us compensation for the hardships we've endured. But it's also a lie that keeps us waiting. We're told from an early age that if we're patient, good things will naturally come our way. Be nice, follow the rules, keep your head down, and sooner or later, life will reward you. But in the real world, rewards don't arrive on their own schedule. They arrive when you create the conditions for them. And creating those conditions starts with owning your role in everything you can control. The problem with the popular narrative is that it paints responsibility as a burden, as if admitting, "This is on me," means carrying guilt or shame. But the truth is the opposite. It's the moment you stop waiting for rescue. If you keep believing the script that says, "I'm stuck because of them," or "I can't because of this," you're handing the steering wheel of your life to forces you can't control. And here's the quiet danger. That belief becomes comfortable. Blaming keeps you safe from the discomfort of trying and possibly failing. Victimhood, while painful, is strangely predictable. You know how to live there. Responsibility, on the other hand, forces you into uncertainty. It demands risk. It demands that you face the possibility that maybe you've been holding yourself back more than anyone else has. This is the disruptive truth. Your circumstances matter far less than your decisions about them. Yes, life can be brutal. Yes, people can wrong you. But if you wait for perfect fairness before you act, you'll be waiting forever. Imagine someone who was betrayed, lost their job, and had every reason to retreat into bitterness. Then imagine that same person deciding, in the middle of all that, "This isn't where my story ends." They choose to rebuild, not because it's easy, but because it's theirs to rebuild. That's not denial. That's power. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. The belief that someone else must change first before your life can change. That's the comfortable lie. And the moment you let it go, the rest of your life starts to look very different. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, once wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose, and in our choice lies our growth and our freedom. Think about the gravity of that statement coming from a man who had everything taken from him: family, possessions, dignity, and yet still refused to give away the last freedom he possessed, the freedom to decide his inner stance toward life. Frankl's insight dismantles the myth that responsibility depends on having ideal conditions. If responsibility were only possible when life is fair, no one in history would have achieved greatness through hardship. But we have endless examples of people who did, from Epictetus, the Greek philosopher who began life as a slave, to Nelson Mandela, who chose reconciliation after 27 years in prison. When we hear names like these, it's tempting to think they were made of something different, something the rest of us don't have. But the truth is, their secret wasn't a special gift. It was a decision. They didn't wait for the world to hand them the perfect moment. They acted with what they had, where they were. The challenge for us is translating these lofty examples into our own daily lives. No, you may not be facing imprisonment or slavery, but you might be trapped in a job that drains you, a relationship that suffocates you, or a self-image that limits you. The same principle applies. Until you step into that space between what happens to you and how you respond, nothing changes. Frankl's words are not a poetic ideal. They're a practical tool. The space he describes is that moment before you lash out in anger, before you sink into self-pity, before you retreat into avoidance. It's a pause that says, "I am not just the product of what's been done to me. I am also the author of what I do next." And here's where the weight of responsibility transforms into strength. You're no longer waiting for rescue because you understand you already have the rescue plan. It's your decision. Once you accept that, you stop asking, "Why isn't anyone fixing this for me?" and start asking, "What can I do with what I have right now?" There's a reason responsibility feels so heavy at first. It threatens the hidden arrangements we've made with ourselves. Most of us live with unspoken contracts that say, if I avoid taking ownership, I can avoid facing my fear of failure. We don't call them contracts, but they govern us just the same. Think about how this works in everyday life. You procrastinate on a goal, and deep down you know it's within your reach. But if you never try, you never have to face the possibility that you might not succeed. You stay safe inside a bubble of someday, which feels less painful than I tried and it didn't work. Or maybe you've convinced yourself that your unhappiness is tied entirely to someone else's behavior. As long as you hold on to that belief, you can avoid the harder truth. Even if they changed overnight, you might still be dissatisfied, Because the real issue isn't them. It's what you've been unwilling to confront in yourself. These patterns are invisible until someone or something forces us to see them. That's why breakups, job losses, and personal crises often become unexpected turning points. They strip away the excuses and leave us face to face with the question we've been avoiding. If this is my life, what am I going to do about it? The danger is that without awareness, we slip right back into the same cycles. We switch jobs, but bring the same unexamined habits. We start new relationships, but carry the same old wounds. We set fresh goals, but drag along the same lack of discipline. And because we've changed the scenery, we convince ourselves we've changed the story, until the same ending plays out again. Owning your responsibility means recognizing these hidden loops for what they are. It's not about self-condemnation, it's about self-liberation. When you see the pattern, you gain the power to break it. The irony, the very act we avoid, taking responsibility, is the act that frees us. Because once you admit, I'm part of this pattern, you also admit I have the power to stop it. And that shift, though subtle, changes the entire trajectory of your life. Sometimes the truth needs to arrive like a short, sharp knock on the door of your mind. Not wrapped in comfort, not softened by politeness, just clear enough to leave no escape. Here are a few sentences worth carrying, even if they sting at first. If you are always the victim, you are also the jailer. No one is coming, and that's good news. Your excuses will fight harder for their survival than your dreams ever will. Blame is a story you tell to avoid the work you fear. The day you stop outsourcing responsibility is the day you stop outsourcing your power. Phrases like these stay with you because they're not meant to be motivational sugar. They're meant to be salt in the wound. They wake you up to the cost of staying as you are. Here's why they matter. We live in an age drowning in information but starving for conviction. We scroll past hundreds of quotes a week, but most are designed to soothe, not confront. Confrontation, the healthy kind, is uncomfortable because it demands a decision. Take the line, "No one is coming." And that's good news. At first it sounds harsh, but when you really let it sink in, it's liberating. If no one is coming to save you, then there's no more waiting. No more postponing life until conditions improve. You can start now with what you have. Or consider, your excuses will fight harder for their survival than your dreams ever will. That one forces you to see that in the battle between what you want and what you fear, fear usually has the better lawyer. And until you start cross-examining your own stories, fear wins by default. We need words like this because they act as mental checkpoints. They interrupt the autopilot thinking that lets us drift through years without real change. They are like small doses of disruption, enough to make you question whether the life you're living is actually the one you want. And when those questions start echoing inside you, that's when the shift begins. Because once you hear them, you can't pretend you didn't. Here's the strange truth. Taking full responsibility for your life feels, at first, like picking up a crushing weight. But over time, it becomes the very thing that sets you free. That's the paradox. The more you accept that everything in your sphere is yours to face, the lighter you feel. Most people assume the opposite. They believe that by holding others accountable for their pain, they are protecting themselves from carrying too much. But blame is not a release. It's a tether. It keeps you tied to the very thing you say you want to be free from. Responsibility is not about controlling everything, and that's impossible. It's about controlling your response to anything. And here's where surrender comes in. To take true responsibility, you have to surrender the illusion that life will bend itself to your preferences. You stop fighting the fact that hardship, injustice, and loss are part of the landscape. Instead, you decide how you will walk through them. It's a bit like steering a boat. You can't control the wind, the currents, or the storms. You can't demand calm seas. But you can take the wheel, adjust the sails, and choose your heading. Responsibility is holding that wheel no matter how rough it gets. Surrender is accepting that you don't get to pick the weather. This duality, power and surrender, works together. Without responsibility, surrender becomes resignation. Without surrender, responsibility becomes an exhausting attempt to control the uncontrollable. But when they meet, you find a strange kind of peace. I will give my full effort to what I can shape, and I will release the rest without bitterness. That's where true maturity lives. It's not about pretending you're invincible, and it's not about passively accepting whatever happens. It's about standing fully in your role while acknowledging the limits of that role. And here's the surprising part. When you live in that space, you often find that the storms you feared the most lose much of their power. Because you're no longer waiting for perfect conditions, you're moving forward in any conditions. That's the freedom hidden inside the responsibility you once tried so hard to avoid. There's a moment, if you truly commit to responsibility, when life starts to feel lighter. It's not because your problems vanish. They don't. It's because you stop wasting energy resisting them. That freed up energy goes somewhere new, into building, repairing, and creating, instead of blaming, resenting, and waiting. The first reward is clarity. When you stop blaming circumstances or people for where you are, the fog lifts. You can see, often for the first time, which of your actions are moving you forward and which are holding you back. It's like switching on a light in a messy room. You may not like what you see, but at least now you know what needs to be done. The second reward is momentum. Responsibility breeds action, and action creates results. Sometimes small at first, but enough to break the stagnant cycles you've been living in. You might find that conflicts resolve faster, goals feel more reachable, and opportunities appear where you thought there were none. And then there's the deeper reward. Dignity. Not the kind that depends on others recognizing your worth, but the kind that comes from knowing you didn't run from your life. You faced it. You chose to show up fully, even when no one was watching. That quiet self-respect is worth more than any external validation. There's also an emotional benefit people rarely talk about. Resilience becomes second nature. The next time a setback comes, you don't collapse into the old story of why me. You go straight into what now. And that shift doesn't just help you survive challenges. It helps you grow through them. Of course, there's a price. You lose the comfort of excuses. You give up the ability to claim you had no choice. But in exchange, you gain something far more valuable: authorship over the story you're living. And here's the thing. Once you've tasted that kind of agency, it's hard to go back. You realize that the security of blaming others was never really security at all. It was just a slow leak of your own potential. Responsibility, it turns out, is the gatekeeper to the life you've been hoping would just happen on its own. Behind everything we've discussed runs a simple but profound framework, one that threads through philosophy, psychology, and even history's greatest works of literature. The idea that life is a moral drama, and each of us is both actor and author. In classical philosophy, particularly in the thought of Aristotle and later Aquinas, human flourishing wasn't about comfort. It was about virtue. Courage, temperance, justice, and prudence weren't abstract ideals. They were the building blocks of a life well lived. And each virtue depends on a single gateway: accepting responsibility for your actions and their consequences. Without that, no character can grow. Psychology mirrors this truth. Cognitive behavioral theory and logotherapy both operate on the premise that we may not control events, but we always control our interpretation and response. Viktor Frankl called it meaning-making, the act of deciding that even suffering can be turned toward purpose. Modern research calls it locus of control, whether you believe life happens to you or through you. The data is clear. Those with an internal locus who take ownership of their role are more resilient, adaptable, and fulfilled. Literature gives us the same lesson in flesh and blood. Think of Dostoevsky's Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment, convinced his intellect sets him above moral law, until responsibility catches him, not as a legal sentence, but as a spiritual awakening. Or Tolstoy's Ivan Ilyich, who spends a lifetime chasing social approval only to confront, at the end, the horror of a life unlived because he never dared to take full ownership of it. This framework isn't just academic, it's the scaffolding of human experience. When we accept responsibility, we step into our role in the moral drama. We become characters who can grow, not just victims trapped in someone else's plot. The key is to see responsibility not as a single grand decision, but as a daily practice. Every choice, from how you speak to a stranger, to whether you act on a long-deferred dream, is a brushstroke in the portrait of your life. Ignore this, and your story will be written for you. Embrace it, and you become, in the deepest sense, free. Because freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's having the moral strength to do what is needed, even when it's hard. You've heard the ideas. You've imagined the alternate life. You've seen the hidden patterns, felt the paradox, and understood the framework. But none of this matters if it stays in your head. Knowledge without action is just another excuse in disguise. Responsibility is not a thought exercise, it's a lived choice. And the most important moment is the first one, the moment you decide to stop narrating your life as if you are a passenger and start acting as the driver. That choice might feel small. Making a phone call you've been avoiding, setting a boundary you've been afraid to draw, taking the first imperfect step toward a dream you've been postponing. But it's the seed of an entirely different future. And here's the truth you might not want to hear. No one will clap for you at the start. Change is quiet in the beginning. You will feel the resistance. Your old patterns will try to pull you back into the comfort of blame and delay. That's the test. Because once you push through that first wave, you'll realize the power was never missing. It was just waiting for you to claim it. Imagine 1 year from now, looking back and realizing that today was the day you stopped waiting, that you stopped outsourcing your life to circumstances, to luck, to other people's choices, that you took the wheel, however unsteady your hands felt at first, and decided, this is mine to live. So here's the call. In the comments, write down one specific area of your life where you've been avoiding responsibility, and the first small action you're willing to take this week to change it. Not next month, not someday, this week. Let it be a public declaration, not because others will hold you accountable, but because you will. Like every story worth telling, yours will not be free of hardship. But if you take responsibility, it will be yours in the truest sense, shaped by your choices, enriched by your courage, and dignified by the fact that you refuse to hand it over to anyone else. Your life won't change because you hope it will. It will change because you decide it must. And that decision can start right now.